to finish against your local rivals when, you know, you were up against it with such a performance, such a result, and you lift that cup, just magic. That's Man United, isn't it?
Erik ten Hag's Manchester United are FA Cup champions, but his future at Old Trafford remains unclear. We're touching on both, as well as highlighting the amazing work of the Manchester United Foundation. It's all coming up on your latest episode of The Theatre of Red.
Manchester United are the FA Cup winners in 2024.
Oh, that is a magnificent sound. Erik ten Hag's Manchester United seeing off that noisy lot from around the corner to seal a 13th FA Cup triumph. And on this day of celebration, I'm delighted to be joined by a man who has found his way down from his Wembley cloud to take time with me today. The Communications Officer for the official Manchester United Foundation, a lifelong Red, Mr. Nathan Thomas. How are you today, sir?
I am still flying. I don't think I've come down from that cloud, Shaun. I think I'm well and truly perched on that cloud. But yeah, in the words of Elbow, one day like this year would see me right, and that was certainly the way that I was feeling on Saturday. It was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Oh, it was absolutely phenomenal. And you were one of the lucky Reds in attendance at Wembley last weekend. United, of course, sealing a deserved 2-1 victory, for anyone who doesn't know, against Pep Guardiola's side. From the moment in walking up there, getting inside, being submerged and immersed when everyone was there, how would you describe the atmosphere and the emotion in the ground for those listening?
I think I'm almost going to have to take it in stages for you, Shaun, because it was such an unbelievable day. And I think almost differed last year in, even from early doors at the pub, I thought the atmosphere felt really positive. I had hope, expectation maybe less, but I just felt that having seen the lads, I was at Palace away and watched us get stuffed and watched the team come over and spend an unusually long time at that away end. They did the same at Brighton. I know that was the last game of the season, but in that time, I thought, I'm looking at these and thought, you know, look, this is the way it should be. It's a cup final, but I thought they want to do something here. They really want to do something. And then we had Bruno's letter on Friday to the supporters. I saw a couple of interviews with the lads and I thought, these guys really, really want it. And they should, but I thought, could be something in the offing here. And so I think you arrive at the stadium and I think we'd all said to ourselves, look, we're going to have a good day. Come what may, let's have a good day. It's been a long, hard season. Let's enjoy ourselves. And straight away, you know, it's always a buzz, no matter, you know, what competition it is. Wembley, going with your mates to watch Man United is an absolute buzz. And it was electric from the off. And I think the fans knew we had our part to play. And I think you start and then suddenly I think you get through the first 10 minutes and you think to yourself, hello, we've got a chance here. You know, we've settled a little bit. And then I can still see that ball being popped over the top of Ortega's head in my mind. Every time I close my eyes and just at that moment, it's like, oh my God, here we go. And it was just, I think from that on in, from the rest of the second half, it was just an absolute buzz. And it's like, we're doing this. Second half, this is kind of the next stage, was just an ordeal. Like, I don't know how you found it, mate, but like I was counting down first in 10-minute chunks, then 5-minute chunks, then 1-minute chunks, then 30-second chunks. And it was just an ordeal until like just absolute and utter jubilation. Like I have been bouncing for days, Shaun, honestly. I can't remember the last time I was thinking about this today. I was almost thinking maybe even Moscow that I had anywhere close to a buzz that kind of lasted this long. And I think it's just the culmination of the season. It's been a tough slog at times, but to finish against your local rivals when, you know, you were up against it with such a performance, such a result, and you lift that cup, just magic. That's Man United, isn't it?
That's Man United. And you mentioned Moscow. I had that, and that was an amazing feeling. This time round, unfortunately, I had to watch from the comfort of my sofa while I await surgery on my buggered knee. But that did offer an opportunity to digest the different mannerisms, the facial expressions, and that general tension in the ground that I could feel it at home. Everyone could feel it. For an unexpectedly nervy ending, I think, though, I mean, Dakos, he snuck that one back. United were in control for the majority of that game. Even when the inevitable onslaught came from City in the second half, I'd like to think it was an assured performance. I'd like to think that credit where credit is due. It was as close to a tactical masterclass when you're playing against Manchester City as you're going to get from Erik ten Hag in a game where he was given little to no chance by anybody, by supporters, by pundits, by ex-players. As someone who works alongside the youth on a daily basis as you do, just how proud were you to see the likes of Kobbie Mainoo, Alejandro Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund making such an impression on the very biggest domestic stage of all?
Oh, so proud. I mean, we'll come on to the foundation and what the work we do later, but young people is at the heart of everything that Manchester United do, and it has been for a long, long time now. And I think it's been a very good year for the academy. For those that follow, will know both girls and boys, I have to say as well. But yeah, to see, like you say, a lad from Stockport, a lad from Argentina come over and score the 2 goals in a final like that. It's like, look, whoever scores, you're not going to care, are you? As long as you win the game, happy days. But it just adds that extra gloss. And, it makes you really proud. It was a proper United day in the way that, as you said before, I think my nerves at the end were kind of probably more from PTSD from this season, Shaun, of watching us throw away leads and lose results. But having watched it back, you can see, like, the Doku's goal, Onana should have probably done better, but I'm not going to go in hard on him because I think he kept us in it at times as well. But it was an excellent performance. The difference that Varane and Martinez made at the back was indelible. Amrabat was fantastic. The space that he covered, just every one of those lads wanted it. And I think, as you said, just bringing it back to your question, I remember sat in Old Trafford 2 years ago watching Kobbie and Alejandro lift the Youth Cup. And, you always, I think you're predisposed as a United fan when you watch young sides, particularly that do well in the Youth Cup, to think, is this the next lot? Is this the next class of 92? Is this the next Jesse Lingard coming through, Paul Pogba coming through? And obviously there's many names going back through history, but you're thinking, is this the one? And obviously Garnacho stood out in that team, and there's a few others, but to see Cobbie's rise over the course of this season, and I think a number of pundits referred to it like his composure is just unbelievable, isn't it? I've had the joy to meet him on a couple of occasions, and was impressed. I think the first time I met him was in January for a brief interaction for some foundation content, and just so calm, confident. He's a young lad. Sometimes you expecting young lads, you think, oh, this guy might not be too confident in front of a camera straight away, but just like, it's all beyond his years, and it shows in his performance. And he was a joy to watch, and that second goal was just fantastic, wasn't it?
It was about as good a goal as we could have expected. How fitting that Mainoo picks up the ball in defence, and he starts it, he ends it. It was perfect transition football. You got the collection from the clearance, Mainoo passing to Bruno. Bruno does this subtle little thing on the football that often goes unnoticed, but he sells every single player where he thinks he's going to pass it left, and he shifts his body right. And he always does it, yet nobody is able to stop it. You got the pass to Mainoo, the pass to Rashford. Rashford's pass, I mean, that's about as good a crossfield ball as you're going to see. And obviously then Bruno having the wherewithal about him to get that. And just in one touch, there was actually one of the commentators made reference that he mishit the ball because they didn't even realize he saw Mainoo and passed it to him. So I thought it was absolutely splendid. And Mainoo, I wrote an article a couple of hours ago. I had to stop myself short because it's almost like you're getting into the second coming of Jesus. Like this guy at such a young age, it's so hard to find fault. He plays like a guy who is so beyond his years. And the fact that he's ours, we're looking at a guy that can lead this club from midfield for well over a decade. And he definitely has all the attributes and the capabilities where he could be a future leader and a future captain of this team as well. Sticking on that, we're speaking about the academy and we're speaking about how important it is to have these guys coming through. I'd like to touch on Johnny Evans and the completion of the Manchester United medal collection. When you look at him, when he was released from Leicester and he just came to the club, obviously eager to maintain fitness, I don't think he could have ever imagined that he would feature in an FA Cup final against City. Just how impressed have you been by that legend this season?
I absolutely love Johnny Evans. I think he's brilliant. I think I was pleased to see him back. I think we all were, just to have him around the place, and from people that I know at Carrington, he is. It's not a coincidence, is it, that somebody from Alex Ferguson's time in United comes back and is a real positive influence, forgetting anything that he's done on the pitch. He's clearly very well respected and very well liked, and just has, something about him where there's a calmness, he's experienced, but that's just off the pitch. I think on it, like you say, none of us expected him to play as much as he has. I don't think he expected to play as much as he has. But my God, when he's come in, he's done so well, hasn't he? And I think back to was it the Burnley game where he played that beautiful crossfield ball to Bruno to set him up for that lovely volley. And, that's not what he's there to do. But, he has that to his game as well. And I think this is someone who I think many of us will feel probably shouldn't have left United when he did. But it was nice in many ways for him to be able to come back and, again, be that positive influence. I think there's sometimes unsung heroes in United's dressing room. I include Tom Heaton in that, who, again, I believe is someone who is a real positive influence, who may not play as much. But Johnny, again, I heard David May say on the United podcast that when he came on for Martinez that he just had no worries that Johnny would be, it would just slot him and his experience would show and he'd get us over the line. And it's great, isn't it? Because like you say, we were talking about Kobe and Garnacho, and not even mentioning Marcus Rashford and Johnny Evans, two other academy graduates who, again, so proud to see them both wear the red shirt. And it was just, seeing them all celebrating at the end, like, it's been a tough all season. And, personally, I just don't believe that, when you hear things about the players or they don't care or this, that and the other, they're not, they do, and there's been lots of things that haven't gone right this year and lots of things I'm sure they would want to put right themselves. But just seeing them all, the likes of Evans, like you say, completing the set for United, with that trophy with the red, white, black ribbons on, it was just a magic moment. And again, just one of these kind of little subplots to the day that just made it all so special. And look, with the season that we've had will be a conversation for another day about things that went wrong and what we need to do moving forward. But as a supporter, you've just got to enjoy these moments for what they are. And it really was. But yeah, very, very chuffed for Johnny, and would not be opposed to see him sticking around for another year. I don't know about you, Shaun.
I agree with that 100%. I was speaking with a couple of colleagues in the last week about this. If for nothing more than as, we'll say, a real backup option, just to have his presence in that dressing room, on the training field, when you have so many young players coming through, particularly when you're looking at Willy Cambuela, such a young guy coming through, to think that he couldn't learn an abundance from Johnny Evans is absolutely absurd. And even if you could keep him there on a sort of a provisional background regarding, we'll say, playing time and regarding the amount of minutes he gets, but just to have him there maintaining his fitness and maintaining that leadership role amongst a group of very, very young players, it seems like the easiest decision that the club could make. Now, I don't know anything on that particular facet. He didn't necessarily give too much away, but I think in his post-match, he was pretty confident that he still had more in him and that United is the club for him. I got the feeling that if he was wanted, he would stay.
Yeah, I mean, like you, Shaun, I'm no wiser than you in terms of where that situation lies. But yeah, I think so. And I think also, you would expect him to play less still next season. You would hope. Obviously, the injury situation has meant that he's played more. So, I think United will probably go into the transfer market. And so just to have him, it's not like there's going to be an expectation on him to play regular, is there? He's there for his experience as a, fourth, fifth choice centre-half, and then can maybe play on the odd occasion, come on late in games for his experience. But yeah, for someone, you look at Raphael Varane, who, again, his injury record maybe aside, I wouldn't have been opposed to him sticking around, but I understood that from his injury record, the money that he was on, etc. Whereas with Johnny, you can't see the situation being the same, the expectation to play. And you get, like you say, not just an experienced head in football, but someone who can, like you say, guide the likes of Willy Cambuela, who's been in his shoes, has come through the academy, knows exactly what it means to play for Manchester United. And I think just that, setting that culture, and that's, having someone there that's been there and done it is really important and can be underestimated sometimes. So yeah, I don't know whether he will, but I agree with you. It kind of just seems like a bit of an easy win, doesn't it, for United?
100%. One more player I want to touch on before I move ever so slightly off the field is I want to talk about Rasmus Højlund, for a guy that came under so much pressure and so much scrutiny following that move, immediately getting comparisons with Erling Haaland, which are just utterly ludicrous. We saw so many different sides to his game as the season progressed. And obviously in the run-in then, when you were looking through Arsenal, Newcastle, Brighton, and then on to City, he started showing his capability of being able to come off the bench and to be able to supply that as well. I'm not entirely sure just how much of that came down to, we'll say, the little niggling injury that he brought to the club with him, and maybe fatigue was starting to build up on top of him. But for a guy that many people questioned, with the lack of chances he's got, the lack of opportunities he's actually after being presented, he was less than a handful of goals away from a goal contribution every other game. And when he came off the bench against City the last day, very much like when he came off the bench against Brighton, changed everything with his dynamic of being able to hold the ball up. And that one moment, I know I saw it differently to you did. You're talking about building into the last couple of minutes of a game where we're really under pressure after Doku scored. And he showed, oh my God, the speed, the gut, the willingness to run. And he holds up the ball against the two players and leaves Alvarez essentially taking him out of it. But just how impressed with you with the cameo that he gave in Wembley that day?
I said to my brother after coming out of the Newcastle game a couple of weeks ago when you mentioned that he scored, and I said, can you imagine if we'd have been able to use him from the bench more often this season? You know, he's had to shoulder so much of United's attack, and the lad is clearly a talent. He clearly is, but he comes in, you know, a fresh-faced 20-year-old. He's coming from Atalanta, from Syria. He's going to take some time to adjust. You know, a lot of strikers would take time to adjust, but because of whether the injury situation or the squad depth, he's had to shoulder a lot of it, and I feel like that's kind of meant there's a lot of pressure on him. He's been overplayed, and I think we saw that. It was kind of there was the moment, wasn't the kind of he had a run early at the start of the year, and then he started to fizzle a bit, and then he got his injury, and in many ways, I think that kind of did him a bit of good in the sense that it just forced us to rest him. And then I think it's been a masterstroke, I have to say, by Ten Hag, because he could have easily just thrown him back in. You know, you starting number 9 back, you play him, but I think it's made a real difference towards the end of that season where he's managed to get something to work. The manager this is with Fernandez false 9, McTominay behind him, whatever this is. But bringing Højlund on in those games when he's fresh and he's sharp. And that at the end, honestly, that was one of my highlights of the game, I think. Just the relief that brought. You know, we had 1 minute to go. We cleared the lines. And just to see him absolutely eating the ground up. I think he was at Alvarez that he just muscled out the way. And it was just like, oh, the relief. And I think that's what he can bring in the game where defenders are tiring. And he comes on and he's like a wild animal, isn't he? Like after him. And I feel like when he's starting, because he is so intense and he's still developing in terms of his fitness and his physical strength, that when he gets to like 60, 70 minutes, you see him start to tire. Whereas then when you can bring him on and he brings that energy with him, he can be such a threat. So it is a shame that we've kind of not been able to bed him in. I think back to say someone like, very different player, of course, but like Chicharito, who had a fantastic first season at United, having come from, kind of probably even kind of more distant reaches than Rasmussen coming from the Mexican league. But he would have had this. He had Rooney around him and Berbatov around him and was able to kind of bed in. Whereas Rasmus just hasn't had that. It's kind of like, you've got to do this or no one else is going to do it. And like you say, to be fair to him, he's done so well, Annie. And we've got a player for the future. And you look at that picture of the 3 lads at that Villa game that they kind of recreated at the cup final, not Villa game, sorry, West Ham game of Kobe, Rasmus and Alejandro. And yeah, if they keep on the right path, we could have a strong set of attacking players there.
Oh, it's very, very exciting. And I had said that I wanted to move slightly away from on the field, because it's impossible not to discuss this as we await the results of this end of season review that's being compiled by Sir Jim Radcliffe and the Ineos powerhouse that's there. There is uncertainty remaining over the future of Erik ten Hag, and there's a variety of questionable reports suggesting the expected barrage of nonsense from the final whistle last week. And that even began with his post-match questioning from the ex-professionals on the ground that day, which I thought was a little bit unsavory. For you, how much consideration do you take regarding the variables that the Dutchman has faced? Are you now on the side of the fence about giving him a season under a new footballing hierarchy?
Yeah, I think I am, to be honest. And to be honest, Shaun, I've never really wavered from that. There's been moments, don't get me wrong. I think Coventry was one. And there was maybe a couple of Palace was probably another. But to be honest, I feel like all things considered, look, I don't think he's been perfect. There's been some enormous mitigating factors, and they are definitely valid to take into consideration. But there's times when I felt just as a supporter that he was getting things wrong repeatedly and things that he could change. But injuries have always been kind of hanging over and have been a reason for that he's having to make various different selections. And I think if you consider his 2 years together and you look at it and you think first season, very good in the league, having taken over a very, very unsteady ship. Let's not forget. Very good performance in the league. Was it 1 defeat at home all season? League Cup final victory, another cup final, which we unfortunately didn't manage to win on that occasion, but still another trip to Wembley. This season, okay, we know what's happened. But collectively, again, he's got his Europe for the second season running via the Cup. I think you look at what's available in the managerial market. Are there any of those that would have done any better than what Erik ten Hag has done with this Manchester United team? I'm not so sure. I think I would definitely lean. I feel like it is a bit of an easy win for the owners, to be honest. I feel like it almost buys them more time, because as soon as they appoint their own man, the pressure is on their man and by virtue them. Whereas if you keep Erik ten Hag for the time being, hopefully we're all, hopefully this is the start of something, the FA Cup final win. But ultimately, whatever happens, the pressure will be on ten Hag and not on the new owners. So to me, it seems like an easy win. But obviously, I think what we're not privy to is the working relationships, the new working relationships that are being established. I think they're right to do a look back. But also, I think it would be to everyone's benefit to know what's going to happen one way or the other. But yeah, I think after that, I would not like it if it was that was the last we saw of Erik ten Hag. Even though, I think you can mount a case to say why they should move him on. But yeah, for me, I'm very much, put it this way, Shaun, I was in a karaoke bar at about 1:30 on Saturday or Sunday morning singing Erik ten Hag, la, 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 la. So I can't do that and then say, now I want him gone. So yeah, Erik in for me, Shaun.
I think I'm going to have to use that song as an intro from now on. But when you're looking at it, in summary, you have it nail on the head for me. There's plenty of times you can point the finger at the manager, and he's not free of any sort of criticism throughout this really, really traumatic season. But I feel with the amount of variables that have gone against him, largely injuries, which I wrote about recently and said has almost become a taboo subject. People almost grimace when you mention the word, but it is so relatable to the situation because it supplied the fundamental falling point for so many issues that encountered, and that is the stumbling block which leads to momentum completely capitulating, and you end up then with a variety of scenarios as a result of that. But as you said, 2 seasons, 2 trophies. That's 2 trophies in 7 years as well, not just in 2 seasons. And he's also given us 5 Wembley trips if you include the semi-finals in 2 years. It's sensational stuff. And I believe what you've said is perfectly correct as well regarding everybody else in the market, because I've said this from the word go, when criticism really hit fever pitch during the season against him. You put anybody into his boots right now, who is going to be doing a different job? Yes, you can probably look at a failure to be able to adapt to tactical inefficiencies regarding the selection of players that he had available. But by and large, I feel he has done enough to be able to give us the opportunity to see him under another footballing hierarchy for at least the start of the season. And you've touched on something as well regarding the ownership and this new best-in-class setup that's there. It is a free win for them, because obviously when you look at the insurmountable amount of polls that have surfaced after the FA Cup final, there is an overwhelming contingent who want to see Erik ten Hag remain in his position. If you are the new owners, who are as shrewd as I can only assume they are, and you take the decision to bring in your own man, you're going from a situation where you've won an FA Cup that could potentially be a catalyst, just like in 1990, and you've decided to rid the club of that, any form of motivation and any form of momentum and optimism that's been built up through Ten Hag, replacing him with your own guy, restarting a project. That brings you into a situation where if your new guy then comes in and struggles to get the side up and running immediately, all of a sudden the fickle fan base that is Manchester United is going to turn on you and you're under pressure. For me, I hope that we do get to see another season with the man in charge, just to see what can happen with that hierarchy behind him. Maybe I'm being deluded. Maybe I'm being too romantic about it, Nathan, but I just feel like there's far more cases to be made for him staying than cases for him to be leaving.
No, I totally agree. And I think, some people will say, you can't make a snap judgment off one game. And I don't think that's what we're doing, is it really? And even to be honest with you, Shaun, yeah, okay, let's say we'd have lost that final. I think we're having a very different conversation, aren't we? But not to say that we'd want United to change, but it puts an entirely different reflection on things. I think whilst you're not making a snap judgment off one game, that is not an insignificant win that we've had. You know what I mean? Like, any FA Cup final win is fantastic, but you're beating Manchester City team is it the first time Guardiola's lost a domestic final or something
Yeah.
like that? So this is not an insignificant win. So yes, you're not basing it off this, but I think when you add this in to his season and to his 2 seasons, it's a very compelling case. And I'd read in reports in the media that Ten Hag is kind of doesn't really understand why his job is even up for debate. And you can understand his view, can't you? And I think it's yeah, I after that, I mean, just after that, speaking as a fan here, just seeing him, I thought it was lovely how I agree with you. I thought some of the journalists and presenters showed a little bit of disrespect. You can't just avoid this question. It would have been a bit of an elephant in the room, but congratulate the guy first, for God's sake. This is one of the highlights of his career so far. Give him some respect. And in fact, normally I'll watch the post-match press conferences after. I'm always quite interested to listen. And I ended up having to turn off after about 5 minutes because it was just one journalist who was just probing. I'm like, Jesus, give the guy a break. He's just won a cup final, for God's sake. Can this not wait? At least congratulate him first and foremost. So it was nice, coming back to my original point, that he was, I noticed when he lifted the cup, he lifted it and kind of gesticulated towards the fans saying, this is for you. And then he made a point of coming over in the end. And I feel like there has been, as you said at the start of the point, there's a bit of a bond there between us, between the match going support and Ten Hag. And I think we know he's not done everything right, but we also know that he's working in very tricky in circumstances. And I remember this would have been maybe December of his first season, and hearing someone tell me that, just his absolute dedication to Manchester United, the hours he works. And yeah, all right, you should expect this is the manager, but just hearing about how utterly resolute he is about everything that United do to get Manchester United back to the top. And I just love that. And this is a man who is absolutely dedicated and absolutely wants United to succeed. Hopefully it will happen. Maybe he won't. But to me, all things considered, just stick with him. Let's just see how things go. I feel after Saturday, it will be a shame.
Couldn't agree more. Now, let us turn our attention to the core of your day-to-day work, that of the Manchester United Foundation. Obviously a wonderful charity that works side by side with the club, but as I say all the time, I'm not going to assume anything. So I won't assume that everybody is aware of the foundation and what they do. For those curious few, can you elaborate on what the mission statement is for the Manchester United Foundation?
So the foundation was set up in 2007, and I think I started working there. It's come up to 4 years now, and I think sometimes I feel like that there's fans that maybe don't know for various different reasons, and I'm always really, really keen to try and let them know, because I really feel like it is something that, as United supporters, we should be proud of. So basically, it was set up, as I say, in 2007 as a tribute, in essence, to the Busby Babes and United's dedication to young players and young people, as we've discussed already on this podcast. And what we were doing is, rather than developing young players, we want to develop young people as young adults, as young individuals. And the way that we do that is we do it in a variety of ways. So we essentially work in education and community. So with education, we are partnered with a number of schools. I think it's around the 70 mark now around Greater Manchester. We also have a partner school in Carlisle, in Glossop, which is in Derbyshire, just on the outskirts of Greater Manchester. And we also have a link up with Ulster University in Derry and their surrounding network. And in each of those places of education, we have what we call a hub officer. So it's a member of our staff, and they work in those schools, places of learning. These are high schools, primary schools, even goes to BTEC as well at A level. So in each of these schools, as I say, we have a hub officer, and their role is to kind of act almost kind of like an in-between a teacher. So, a kind of like a big brother to a parent type dynamic, where they will work with kids who are maybe struggling for various different reasons, whether it's issues they're having at home, whether it's just problems that they just, can't quite focus, or academic work is maybe a struggle for them. And they'll work with them on a one-to-one basis. And a great example of that is something that we recently put out, and we call it our United and Me series, and it focuses on participants that we work with. And this latest story is about a girl called Arissa, and she attends Whalley Range High School, which is about 3 miles from Old Trafford, very close to the ground. And she was really, really struggling in school, and kind of, because she was struggling, she was kind of rebelling and, being sent out, not focusing. And our coach, Lauren, worked with her extensively over a period of time. And she's very much gone full circle now, in that she's become a bit of a community leader. She volunteers at our Street Reds. I'll come on to that in a minute. She's just a fantastic young girl. And she recently met up with Bruno, who basically gave it was a nice little kind of pep talk as someone who, in Bruno's instance, has had to work really hard for where he's got to. His parents made sacrifices, and I think both of them had a nice little connection. You can see that on our website, which I'm sure Shaun will link to. That it was a really, really nice moment, and it's kind of an example of the kind of work that we do to kind of our mission statement is to engage, to inspire and unite young people and the communities where they live, and turn them into, give them an opportunity to have a good career, to have a good life, and they can do that, we feel, with our support. So it's an amazing thing to be involved with, and especially like myself as a Red, as a local lad, to serve the communities I grew up in with my football club is a real honor. And I absolutely love it. And just to mention as well, I've kind of gone over one element of our delivery. Community is another element, which I mentioned Street Reds before. So this to me is the foundation in United. It's absolute core and its heart, and this is basically football in the community. Give opportunity for kids in certain areas. We have 8 Street Red sites around Greater Manchester where they can go, they can play football of an evening with a Man United coach, enjoy it with their mates, where otherwise they might be doing things and going down paths that are negative, and it gives them something really positive and something to be proud of within their community. Marcus Rashford went to the Street Reds in Wythenshawe, I think the day after he scored against Midtjylland. Zidane Iqbal also attended Street Reds at various different times. So yeah, it's that is just a top line stuff of the many things we do. You can find more stuff about our website. You can always ping me on Twitter if you've got any questions. But yeah, to me, it's United in the community of Manchester and beyond, serving young people, and it's a joy to be a part of, Shaun.
How cool is that for every single person listening? You mentioned Arissa. I saw Arissa. I watched that, and I watched the little back and fro that you had with Bruno. I thought that was absolutely beautiful, and it really is inspiring stuff. It's not just saying this. This is proper inspiring stuff that's commendable and inspiring. And you're seeing individuals that went through a difficult time, turning it around and now paying it forward to the next group of generation that are in a similar place to where Arissa was. You mentioned community as well. Obviously, the several players that you mentioned, because the support of the first team squad, both men and women, is crucial to the advancement of the foundation. And I think that's obvious. But it's not just a case of the players turning up, ticking boxes and saying, yeah, I was there, I've done that. From any of the material that you will read or that you'll see, to me anyway, it seems truly evident that it really does mean a lot to so many of the stars of both men and women's teams. And so much so that we obviously recently saw the news about the PFA Community Champion Award.
Yeah, so this is basically an award that is kind of distributed at every club and their CCO, which is Club Community Organisation. So we give an award each season to a member of the men's team and to the women's team, and that is for a particular player that stood out in terms of their kind of enthusiasm and application where it comes to community work. So this year it went to 2 goalkeepers, Andre Onana, and for followers of the women's team, Fallon Tullis-Joyce, who is the sub-goalkeeper for the women's team. And both of them, super impressive. I have to say Fallon has gone above and beyond, I think, anything that I've known from previous players, in that she is a marine biologist and made this known to us, and made it known that she'd also be very keen to come and deliver a lesson in one of our schools. So we took her to Stretford High School, again, stone's throw away from the ground, and she delivered a lesson to the kids on marine biology, and it was brilliant, and she was so good. Like, I've only unfortunately seen clips of it. My colleague went to help facilitate the session, but she was just fantastic, and I think she's supported us additionally at other projects where we have players down and they'll get involved with certain things that are going on. But to see a player lead a session, and you've got the combination there for the kids of a Man United player coming into their school but also being taught by them, was really special. And I think for fans that are listening to this, it always kind of warms my heart to know that your club, whether you've won on a Saturday or you've lost on a Saturday, is at the heart of its community. And everyone that's listening to this podcast and everyone that goes to watch Man United has been inspired by Man United in some way. For us, it's because we just get a buzz of going with our friends, watching amazing players, all this carry on. But, it's always nice to know that Man United can also inspire people to turn their lives around and to give kids something to really hope for, where in their life they might be struggling for various different reasons. So to get the players buy-in is brilliant. So Fallon, that was unbelievable. Andre, again, fantastic. He is just, honestly, you can't help but warm to him when you meet him. And he's obviously had his struggles at this time throughout this season. And I think every time, I'm in a privileged position where I do get to interact with some of these players, and he's such a nice guy. And I think I'd root for him anyway because he's a Man United player, but I just want to see him do well because honestly, he seems such a warm individual. He was another that really wanted to get involved. I think he's got his own foundation that does work with young people in Cameroon. So there was kind of a nice link up there. So he came to our Street Reds. I think it was the Old Trafford site, I think it was, earlier this season. And he came down, got involved with the session, Q&As with the kids. I think he was giving gloves out. I remember there was a clip that we put out of a lad going like, I've got Onana's gloves. And, these kids are so close to Old Trafford, but also so far removed in the sense of the backgrounds that they come from. And, we were having a chat off air before this about ticket prices, and it can sometimes seem out of reach, and to me, if you've grown up in Old Trafford or Gorsill or Stretford, it should not be out of reach. It should be at the heart of your life. And to see a player come down, particularly someone who's not from Manchester, he's very new to the place, and make such an effort, he was brilliant. So yeah, Andre and Fallon, both our community champions this season, and very, very well deserved.
I wasn't aware about the lesson being taught in marine biology. That's absolutely phenomenal. But I had seen Andre getting his award, and he genuinely looked taken back by the response that he was after receiving. I'd imagine when he's trying to, as you said, to integrate into a new area and a new league, a new country, a new everything, that having that outlet available for him gave him something to do to take his mind off the struggles that he was having early on as well. Reflects back to the actual dressing room with the players as well, because when you have that type of mentality inside in the dressing room, it can only be beneficial for the younger players when they're coming through. Another point I'd like to cover as well, because it was what I saw, and it ties in both with football and Wembley and the foundation into one perfect conversation, was with Ronan Duffy receiving the prestigious honour of placing the FA Cup ball before kickoff in last week's final. Outside of trying to wipe the smile off his face, just how important are factors like that for individual recognition regarding all of this?
It's great, and I think fair play to the FA for that, for instigating it. The trophy was carried out by two people from City's and United's CCOs. So City had theirs from City in the community, and we had Ronan, who works in our primary delivery. And I think what it was nice. Obviously, it was nice for me to see him there. It was just amazing to see a colleague in that United scarf bringing out the FA Cup. It was fantastic. But I think, again, it's a reminder what football really is about. And this is a huge occasion with lots of eyes on it. And, Ronan will go out and do his delivery in a primary school in Stockport or Wythenshawe or wherever it may be on a day-to-day basis. And it's an acknowledgement that, yeah, we're all here watching this game today and hoping for our respective teams to win. But the work that football clubs do in their communities goes on every single day and makes such a difference. And these are the kind of moments, like you say, that bring it and everybody together. And it was really, really nice. And I was chuffed that he got the opportunity. There's plenty of other people there that would have been equally as deserving. We've got such a set of hard-working staff that are really, really passionate about helping the young people we work with. But yeah, fair play to Ronan, and it was brilliant. I think when it had all settled down after, and me and my mates had gone to the pub in Kilburn, I was kind of just flicking through my phone for the first time in hours, and I was like, oh, there's Ronan with the cup. And it was like, I knew it was happening, but to see him like with the scarf on and holding the trophy, that must have been amazing for him. I've not actually seen him since, but I'll certainly be giving him a congratulatory pat on the back when he does it. But yeah, really nice to see these people from both United and City, because as I say, City in the community do some fantastic work, and it's great, when we often have these meetings where, people from various different community organizations of their respective clubs come together, and it just shows you how important it is. And times are hard for people, and these football clubs have always been beacons in their community. And it's nice to see that in a world of football where people can easily get turned off by the money and various other things going on in the world of sport, that ultimately there are people working in it for the good and to ensure that football clubs remain where they should be, which is at the heart of their respective communities.
And with the season ending, and football taking a temporary break, what can we look forward to from the foundation over the coming weeks and months?
I think, to be honest, so we've got, there are things approaching. So the first one that is on the top of my head, which will be the next big thing, is our Legends game. So we play, I'm sure people will have seen them, but we play every 2 years normally, and it's a team of United greats will return to Old Trafford to play a respective team and their team of legends. And this year's rather, is Celtic, and is taking place on the 7th of September at Old Trafford. Some of you may have come to our last one, which was against a pretty small team from down the road by the name of Liverpool FC, and they came to Old Trafford. And then the one previous was a pretty legendary one, which I'm still gutted to have missed. I was there to watch it, but I wasn't working at this point. This was our treble reunion of 2019 to mark the 20th anniversary of the treble. So yeah, this is our first game against Celtic. Celtic, obviously notorious for travelling well, so we're hoping we're going to get the Hoop Army down to Old Trafford for this one as well. But they're normally great days. Player confirmations will be coming soon. They'll be led by Brian Robson as their manager. But normally great days, a chance to see players that you've watched and not seen for years, some of whom, as we know, can very much still do it, the likes of Paul Scholes. I was very impressed with Dimitar Berbatov at the last Legends, I have to say, and Antonio Valencia as well, he's very much kept himself in shape. He is an absolute unit, even still. And these are really good days, but all the profits go to the foundation, and they're a really key moment in our calendar in terms of, one, getting everyone together, raising awareness for the foundation, but obviously supporting our work. Moving forward, later in the year, we will have other fundraising opportunities for people to get involved. So do keep an eye out on our social media. And then one to watch is the trek up Kilimanjaro, which unfortunately is fully booked in terms of people being able to do that climb. But Captain Marvel, to mention him again, Brian Robson, will be leading a group of intrepid explorers up Kilimanjaro, the not insignificant feat again, all to raise money for the foundation. And again, another shout out to not just a current player, but a former player for supporting. It's kind of, people often talk about this United family, don't they? And sometimes I can find it a bit corny and a bit cliche, but in moments like this, it is nice to see, whether it's Andre Onana, Fallon Tullis-Joyce, Brian Robson, Dimitar Berbatov, all coming back to Manchester United, where they enjoyed a successful time in their career, to support young people who are looking to make their way in the world. It is really, really nice. So yeah, it's going to be a busy year. And anyone that's interested, as I say, can find us on Twitter, Instagram, all the socials, searching Manchester United Foundation, and our website is mufoundation.org, where you can keep up to date. But yeah, we're always looking for people to reach out and raising money for us. We function in the same way that any other charity does. And we're reliant on people's support. So yeah, that would be fantastic. But yeah, it's going to be a busy time, Shaun. Busy time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told you that was going to be good. Just how good was that? That was such a pleasure chatting with you today, Nathan, on what was a surprisingly sunny day. And I know you mentioned the foundation contact details, but if people want to get in contact with you, the man, how can they get in contact with you?
Can't promise it's going to be overly entertaining following my Twitter, but I do the best. But that is the first place that I would recommend. In fact, I've already shown my age by calling it Twitter, haven't I? I should be on the ball there now and saying, you want to follow me on X, ladies and gentlemen. I am at Nathan L. Thomas if you want to come and say hello and listen to lots of ramblings and tweets about United. But yeah, if you're a Red, come and say hello.
They might even get some more singing like we got earlier on. And
maybe.
And you can get in touch with me at Shaun Connolly 85, and be sure and follow the Theatre of Red on all of your social platforms. Visit the website theatre-of-red.com for your daily Manchester United content. And most importantly, be sure and hit subscribe wherever you are listening today. And we will catch you all next week.